I am a firm believer that nonprofits do not need advisors on their board. They need people who will open their wallet and shine the light on the mission.
Recorded at Amplified Studio in downtown Des Moines, Give and Grow is more than a podcast. It's a commitment to our community. Founded by Andy and Sarah Suzanen alongside the RIA Group, this initiative is dedicated to uplifting the organizations and individuals who work every day to make Central Iowa a better place for all. Welcome to the Give and Grow podcast, where we share the stories of the nonprofits transforming lives in our community. Each organization is featured in 3 episodes, offering a deeper, more personal look at their impact. Through conversations with passionate staff, generous donors, and the very people whose lives have been changed by their work, our hope is simple: to connect, inspire, and strengthen the bonds that make our community thrive.
Welcome to the Give and Grow podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan Spain. This is our second of 3 episodes featuring the nonprofit Mind and Spirit Counseling Center. Mind and Spirit Counseling Center is a 501c3 organization whose mission is to walk with people through counseling and education to find hope and healing and to live a fulfilling life. Their vision is to be a welcoming place for those seeking inspiration, hope, and healing of body, mind, and spirit. And they prioritize access to help for everyone, regardless of insurance status and income. Mind and Spirit's annual budget hovers around $3.5 million. The nonprofit has been serving the community since 1972. Today, I'm speaking with a donor of Mind and Spirit, Michele Whitty, who also recently joined the organization's board of directors. Michele has worked in healthcare, fundraising, and corporate training sectors. For 7 years, she worked with a team of healthcare providers at St. Mary's Healthcare in St. Louis in the psychiatric unit as an activity director. She has over 25 years of experience in fund development, donor cultivation, and nonprofit strategy. I'm thrilled to have you here, Michele. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to first just ask how you came to know Mind and Spirit Counseling, why you've stayed involved and increased your involvement over the years as well.
I walked into the office of a friend of mine to make a business call, and it was 16 years ago, Katie Roth, and she's very active in the community, a good friend. And I've always admired Katie. And that day, when the business wrapped up, she looked at me and she said, "Hey, girlfriend, what are you doing tomorrow?" And she said, "I have an extra ticket for the Women Helping Women annual luncheon." And I just thought it would be fun to have lunch with Katie. I didn't know a thing about the organization and attended the next day and walked into a ballroom full of women, many of whom I knew. And it was just energizing. And I was kind of embarrassed because I really had never heard of the organization. And so Francie Phelan was the keynote speaker that day. And she is very well admired in the community for her work in HR. And Francie has always been a very good advocate in all of the companies and corporations where she has worked for employees. And one of the things she has advocated for is to have companies provide mental health services. And so that was her talk and experience and story that particular day. But that's how I became aware of Mind and Spirit Counseling. And of course, it was the Pastoral Center for Counseling at that time.
Right.
And about 4 years ago, they changed names to really align with what they felt the mission was. And it better articulated the clients that they served and the services that they provide. So I have Katie Roth to thank for connecting
Excellent.
me
Thank you, Katie.
to that organization. And so I just put it on my calendar. They announce at the end of every event when the next date is. So it was an easy save the date. And that year, I didn't provide anything in terms of finances, but I walked out that day thinking I can do something. So I wrote my first check then. That was probably 16 years ago. Wow. And over the years, I have just increasingly given more, listening to the stories. And so anyway, when I joined the board last fall, I upped my giving then. So when you mentioned donor and increase, it really was through the compelling stories that I heard from donors, board members, and clients, and people in the community. And Judy Bradshaw was head of our police force for several years here, and probably 5 years in to me attending. Her story was very compelling, talking about the need for services that Mind and Spirit provided to many on their health force. So just over the years, I've really seen the breadth of service that the counselors provide to community members, and love it.
Yeah, it's been very impressive to learn about its history and its impact and the breadth of services that it provides. It's been nice to get to know them. I learned about them in a similar manner, going to Women Helping Women, and I've never heard of them before either. So it was really fun to have a similar experience and also go away with a lot more insight about our community as well as the organization.
I go in really with a lot of synergy looking forward, because I do know a lot of people there, and I always leave inspired. And I have to say, probably 5 years ago, the executive director, Jim Hayes, made the comment, something like, toward the end of his comments, we feel every day in the services we provide our clients that the communion of saints is looking out for us and over our shoulder and supporting us in the work we do. And Jim is the first to share with people. He was a former priest. In my faith life, I so believe in the communion of saints. So when I heard Jim reference that, I wanted to fall out of my chair and then stand up and cheer. And that was just very, very, very inspiring. And so I feel the leadership there has really shown not only a vocation and a love to vocation, but their avocation too. And I think that's really in alignment.
It is. The spirit aspect is unique, and community of saints. Tell me about that. Well, for honestly, people who don't know.
Thank you. In my faith, I grew up Catholic, and it's really all of the saints, their lives and what they were devoted to while living, that still is a part of who they are as a spirit in where you believe in heaven or afterlife, whatever that is for you. I do believe that they did not just live in vain, that helps guide when you call on them. That helps guide you. And I believe that those who I have known and have passed on are absolutely there guiding my children, my grandchildren, and myself in my life endeavors. So
thanks for sharing that.
And I think Jim believes that as well, obviously, in the work he has chosen to do.
I'd be curious about listeners listening in on that, and how there's a lot of different ways to believe in a higher power and the energy of those in the world, and acting in supportive roles.
Yes, absolutely. I went to a celebration of life recently, and the pastor, one of his final comments is, I believe in rest and peace for maybe 3 days. And then it's incumbent upon us who are still living to call on that individual and ask for their continued prayers and blessings for us in our life now. So I just think that's very powerful. And for me personally, it's very inspiring.
Yeah. You don't feel so alone. You know that there's people working in your favor.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that is their mission, as you said. Yeah. It is really about counseling and education for hope and healing.
Yes.
And that is such a strong component of what they live. And that phrase is used everywhere on their website, collateral materials. They live it and breathe it.
And I just want to reiterate, it's non-denominational.
Correct.
It's just, if you want to tap into that aspect through your counseling, they have the education and experience to know how to do that in a way that's
absolutely
helpful.
Spiritual direction is a component of what they do, but it's really the core is counseling, psychiatry, psychology, LGBTQ community counseling, and like I said, spiritual direction. And very proud to say that last year they served over 3,600 clients. The center has 40 plus, give or take on any day, week, whatever, right at 40. And they are plugged in, yes, in a non-denominational way. That is in part why they changed their name, because they felt the pastoral counseling
Had a connection that...
Yes, had a connection that maybe was a little more convoluted or simply not in alignment with what their goal and mission was. So, yes.
Yeah, it's nice to hear also that they create a community within their organization among the clinicians and staff through training, through weekly check-ins.
Yes.
So they're really in touch with one another, maybe what's happening in the world, but also trying to support their clients in a very holistic way. So
yes. If you ask their development director, and honestly, I haven't known Heather Stravant all that long, but what Heather will tell you, the staff and what she is personally most proud of, they do not work in a vacuum. They are not siloed. And so your reference of holistic, that is important for them to communicate in their work and in their mission. No one there works in a silo. And she said she attributes that to their success with their clients, that everybody feels supported.
And I'm sure retaining clinical staff as well. You know, it sounds like a really great supportive work environment.
Yes, it is. I like to say we're at the intersection. We're in Urban, the main building is in Urbandale.
Yeah.
And I like to say we're at the intersection on 86th Street in Urbandale between Panera, Iowa Outdoor Products, and the Urbandale Library. Three things I love. So you can go and
get a lot done in a short amount of time.
Maybe get a cup of soup, a to-go order, go buy a plant that makes your week feel terrific, and get a great book at the library. So very centrally located. Very centrally located.
Oh, that's great. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. I understand this year's Women Helping Women event was a great success, not for only raising $235,000, but also for its educational component on the topic of social media. What was your takeaway from that talk, that panel this year?
And it's just that, Siobhan, it was the first time, apparently, I've been attending 16 years, but this event has been going on, I think, 24 years. It was the first time that panelists were used in their format. As I mentioned, it's primarily been one keynote speaker, and the team that put the event on decided to leverage the buzz in the community and nation, honestly, around Jonathan Haidt's New York Times best-selling book called The Anxious Generation. And the takeaways from that book, obviously, have been a key aspect of why mental health has been such a need for adolescents in the last decade. And the takeaway from the book is we really, in the past generation, have moved from a child play to child phone environment of play. And so the panelists included the associate principal at Hoover High School.
Okay.
And he is a young man who has been in the profession of a high school math teacher for 25 years. And in the last...
Right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it. And so very knowledgeable and has seen that transition play out. And Rob is now associate principal at Hoover. So he was one of the panelists and gave dynamic insights into what schools are seeing in the community. And then we had a young woman who is a senior from Urbandale High School to offer her perspective. And then Heidi Bowden, Dr. Heidi Bowden, who is a counselor at Mind and Spirit. So those three offering puzzle pieces for what plays out in school, the perspective of the young woman who is right in the thick of that, and then someone in Dr. Bowden's position who has to maybe pick up the pieces of the depression, isolation, and anxiety that has also, research has told Jonathan Haidt, that is the result of this shift from children's play to phone. And the high schools here in town are really taking some of the concrete suggestions that Haidt makes. Don't give a phone to a child unless there's an absolute reason to before the age of 16. And so Rob's perspective was very interesting. Hoover does have a policy of check the phones at the door. And one of the examples he gave was seeing the transformation in the lunchroom alone. From kids that used to be heads down, eating, isolation, no talking, to having to have conversation with people at the table, among the tables. He said that has absolutely been a breath of fresh air. And of course, the teachers are very grateful, very supportive, because they are seeing better attention spans, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And so that format, and then what the presenters did was they had everybody at the tables turn and then just say, what were your impressions? What were your takeaways? And one of the takeaways that the counselor, Dr. Bowden, gives when she sees particularly adolescents is she asks them to consider writing a gratitude journal. And she said the positive things that have come out of that, there is clear research that tells us keeping a gratitude journal absolutely lessens, improves mental health. Yeah. So it was a terrific takeaway, completely different format. It would not surprise me in the past if they continue to mix that up some way, but a great use of what's going on in the nation, community. Let's bring it down to what it looks like, and then granularly, what does it look like for our counselors in their work. And I can't forget to mention a program that we have with very young children. It's called Cool.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd bring that up.
And it is, now it's going to elude me, but it is counseling for children with life obstacles. Okay. And the different modalities they use are anything from building blocks to costumes, art, sand, music, any ways that they can begin to kind of loosen up, express themselves, and feel free to have that self-expression during a therapy session.
Yeah, I bet that makes a big difference not to be in the stereotypical what we see as a therapy session, which is very, can be very dry, very sterile, but to really meet them where they're at.
And Jim Hayes will tell the cute story that one young boy who was there had a sibling who came to the counseling with him and met with the parents in the waiting room. And boy, he was doing everything he could to convince his parents that maybe he thought he needed therapy too, because he'd seen the therapy room, and it was quite a fun room. And
that's great.
He just thought maybe he could
breaking down
be a better little guy if he could get
right
in there.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
They're very proud of the work they do there.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Mm-hmm. So you spoke about the Cool program. Is there, they also have a client assistant fund. So this fund is used in several ways, such as enabling the organization to offer services on a sliding fee scale.
Yes.
It also allows the organization to provide mental health therapies to those who cannot afford it.
Yes.
Among other things. It seems like that's pretty central to them. And the funding, there's grants and funding that goes towards that program to keep them nimble and being able to be flexible enough to serve the community in a more thorough way.
They do feel they're having to pivot a bit. Okay. Obviously, it's a little bit of a complicated funding because it is grants, it is government, it is private funding.
Right.
This Women Helping Women annual event has gone a long way. Of course, when many years it's $250,000.
It's just fantastic.
And that does provide the very funds for that sliding scale that you just mentioned. And I know I've been associated in a deeper level only for 4 months being a board member.
Yeah.
So I do know that we do serve underinsured and uninsured and low-income clients. So the very funds that are provided from this annual event are the funds that are used to provide, for that sliding scale. And how that is determined, I'm not really part of,
Right.
but it's wonderful to know. I call that kind of for the gap.
Yes.
And so that has been
and it seems like that's a very smart thing
positive.
for a lot of nonprofits to consider, because it seems like in all funding and all nonprofits, there's usually a gap, right?
Yes, there is.
And to get donors to understand that that's an important aspect to allow the organization to be responsive.
Yes, and I think where that women, I think so many nonprofits have some type of annual event.
Yes.
I call that just a great PR moment.
Absolutely.
And marketing, and that's really where community members have an opportunity to understand the mission. And I think why that event has been so, Heather will call it an organic event over the years. 24 years ago, I believe, 34 guests gathered for that. This past May, 560 guests were present. So and
That's
that,
amazing.
And that is amazing. And
I
that was
love
a
it.
10% increase over 2024. And actually, it has gotten so large, we have outgrown the ballroom at Embassy Suites, where it was for years, and are now out at Prairie Meadows. But
Oh, wow.
I like
That's a
to
big
say
space.
that
Yeah.
the format features stories. And I'm a big believer that stories will outpace stats any day of the week. And I do think that's why, as she says, it's an organic event where they ask people, just like Katie asked me. And then 16 years later, I bought a table in May, and it was my goal to invite people that I thought had no idea what that was, what the organization was. And 3 ended up writing checks afterwards.
Oh,
They
that's
thought it was
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
But that's just a great example of organic and reaching out to people that might not know what that mission is.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And it's a great way for volunteers to get involved, I understand.
yes, it is. And I am
Just
not
like
on
you
the,
mentioned.
I am not on the planning committee, but every year I've noticed that they have done an outstanding job of engaging the next generation. And there are all kinds of 40-year-olds, young women, young guys that are the age of my children that are now stepping in. They are making the plans. They are purchasing tables. They are attending. And that is critical for any organization to see
pull off a big
who's in the pipeline.
fundraiser, it can be a lot for energy, and to have that support system kind of built into the volunteers.
And I know that they have a price break for, it might be under 40, but there's a price break in tickets. And so that's been a nice strategy that they've used throughout the years to, engage younger people, to bring them in and kind of see all the good work that is being done.
Yeah, which brings me to my next question, is just cultivating younger donors, making sure that they're included and at the table of these, all the needs in the community. This podcast is here to help spread the word about all the nonprofits that really make our community so much better.
Yes.
And it's often behind the scenes.
Yes,
and,
it is.
And I'm excited to be able to talk to people about that, to get that awareness up, and also talk about how we are attracting younger donors in the donor landscape of Des Moines. So I often turn to donors and ask about their kids, because that's all right, the immediate vicinity.
Yes.
How is that culture in your family life?
First influencers.
Yes, right.
You mentioned I've been in different sectors. One was in fundraising. So I was a professional fundraiser for 13 years in 2 entities. One was in Maryland for 3 years, and then one as advancement director here in Des Moines for 10 years. But I believe that if you are a leader of an organization or head of a household, If philanthropy matters to you, and sometimes philanthropy, some people think, well, that's a big word. I'm not a big donor. I'm just going to say giving in general.
Yes.
And you have to open up your wallet.
Yeah.
And your family members have to see that it is important to you. If you are at a corporation, leaders need to be involved. It can't be delegated.
Right.
And years ago, the research told us when the question was asked, how most people started giving, what were their early recollections. It was always giving in the collection basket at churches. And that's what young people and
saw. They witnessed as well.
That's what they witnessed, that's what they saw, that's what they saw their parents do. And so now I think parents and my husband and I were much more intentional, because the reality, we live in a day and age where you use a plastic card. It does not look like money.
Yeah.
You have online banking. So for children, I think you really need to be intentional and pull out the wallet where they see a $20 bill or they see whatever it is you are giving, so they understand. And growing up, my father, every Saturday, we had chores that we did throughout the week. And okay, I grew up in the 60s. Okay. So he would, and I hear a snicker, but he would give us all $1. And he said, 50 cents of it you can spend.
Yes.
25 cents needs to be saved.
Yes.
And 25 cents needs to go in the collection basket tomorrow. That was an imprint that stayed with me my life. We did it with our children. Mm-hmm. 2 of our children who have children are doing it with their children. Really
Fantastic.
The same formula. We didn't drive that. Mm-hmm. We saw that. So that was terrific. Obviously, that was important to them. And I am a firm believer, because we had a board of 42 people, and I am a firm believer that nonprofits do not need advisors on their board. They need people who will open their wallet and shine the light on the mission of the organization or particular nonprofit in the community. So I think nonprofits sometimes don't do justice when they are onboarding new members, because they
there's even that stigma with it, like, oh my gosh, if I tell them they have to give, and they have to be involved in that way, it may turn people
away,
off.
Yes. And my belief is the phrase that is so key to having board members, and then when you're out fundraising, asking prospects and donors, would you join me? Mm-hmm. It's about you tell your story. If you're being onboarded, hopefully that nonprofit can say, all of our board has given 100%. We are very proud of that. You know, nobody's going to ask what each board member gave.
Right.
But if you can collectively say, because we believe in the mission, and I believe that is key. And subsequently, I believed when I went out to make personal visits and ask people to fund organizations, it was always, would you join me? This is the story. This is why I am inspired by it. And then be quiet and then hear their story and hear what they want to say.
Oh, that's great advice. I'm so glad you're here to share that insight. You know, and especially like, you know, there's been a movement. You know, the boards look very similar to one another. They're the people that can give only, and they're maybe older and of a certain sector. And, you know, how do you speak to the board in that way when we're trying to get more people at that board table that represent the community itself? And how do you respond to that part too? Because I know that's a sticking point, like, oh, and then we have to also ask that everybody give.
Yes. I would just, in my growing up, it's so a part of who I am, Siobhan. I think the world has givers and takers. Yeah. And I want to be a giver. I want to be a giver. And when there are so many nonprofits, and I think the key is, what are the stories? What is your mission? and what is your why? And if you are crystal clear on that, then that is what distinguishes you from X, Y, and Z
Absolutely,
in the community. Right? And I think the other thing that needs to be communicated is it's that joining. You want to have fundraising is about integrity.
Right.
And it is about looking at people and thinking, okay, they put their money where their mouth is.
Yes.
And so that's the key, I believe, in that board, in onboarding, to be able to say, we need you not only to take our mission and our stories forward, but we also need to have some component that you understand that there is a financial responsibility if you are going to be a board member. And in terms of getting the next generation, I believe it's incumbent upon boards to have boards that reflect the community. And
Absolutely.
that is young people.
Yes.
And that is diversity in every way, shape, and form as it relates to the services you provide in the community. And that alone, again, speaks to integrity. If you have it at the board level, I believe, and if your mission is clear, I believe money follows mission.
Yes.
If you have leadership that doesn't delegate, and people can look at and say, yes, they have integrity.
Yeah.
I think those are the keys to successful nonprofit success, basically.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to the stigma we have about giving, just like that word donate, donor, philanthropy.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people are intimidated by that aspect, but giving a little bit is still philanthropy, is still donor.
And I think pennies make dollars. Now, I hope you're giving more than pennies, but you know what I mean. Pennies make dollars.
Absolutely.
And
right?
dollars impact decisions. And that's how you just simply have to look. And I would repeat again, it doesn't serve any board well to simply have members that consider themselves advisors. Those days are over.
They are over, right.
And there's too much at risk for fiduciary responsibilities. But I just think people feel better. They feel more a part of the mission.
They want to give,
when they know
Right.
they have opened a wallet and written a check. And then it simply becomes a matter of, would you join me? I find this organization to be inspiring.
Yeah.
And so I think it's much easier to ask people to give because you're simply inviting them to join you.
Right.
And I think that's the distinction of...
I love that aspect, you know, inviting people to events, inviting people to learn more about the organization. It's a great way to get more people involved. And there's so many great events out there to be part of our nonprofit community, just like Women Helping Women. It's happening in May next year.
Yeah, May 15th. Matter of fact, I just learned that.
Okay.
I had to write that on my calendar.
Get it on your calendar, right?
We did learn last month at our board meeting, I guess in May, that when guests were asked how they rated it, you know, there was an evaluation form. How can we be better? What did you particularly like? 9.8. So it doesn't get any better than that. Was, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Heather was thrilled, and she was thrilled to make that report.
Oh,
so very,
I love that
very happy
success
day.
story.
So yeah, May 15th, if there are listeners there that think, you know, I'd like to learn more, but.
Yeah. And also, Jim will be retiring sometime soon.
Yes. Matter of fact, full disclosure, when he interviewed me and gave me a tour in January, he looked at me and he said, I do have news I just shared with the board. So the board there is a leadership group among the board, and they are conducting interviews now. I think that process is going very well. We get monthly updates. And so, yes, I think the latter half of this year will honestly be, hopefully, transitioning a new executive director as Jim transitions away. So...
Great.
There will be a few tears.
I bet there will.
Yeah, Jim's been a very good leader.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. And I'm sure that will be very attractive to the candidates.
Yes.
So that's a win-win in so many ways for the organization and the community. Okay, so a great way to get involved with Mind and Spirit Counseling Center is to visit their website, but also get involved with Women Helping Women.
I think so. I don't know if there are a lot of external opportunities,
Right.
volunteer opportunities because of the confidentiality factor.
Yeah.
But as Heather said, this event, it would surprise me if listeners said, "Oh, I don't know, I wouldn't know anybody."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. People
With a crowd like that,
yes,
you're going to know somebody.
Yes, and a very welcoming. And like I said, if you don't go with another person,
Yeah.
you're simply put at a table with other people that
Yes.
aren't there with. And I did that for several years. So
Okay.
last year is the first time I actually purchased a table. But just a wonderful, inspiring event, and I love it that they've been true to their tagline, because there has never been a presenter that has not been keyed into that hope and healing aspect of the counseling and education. So I just think that simply is what draws people.
Excellent. Well, this has been a very inspiring conversation.
Thank
you
you
for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. You can visit mindandspiritcenter.org to learn more about the nonprofit and the event next year. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.